The Shady Plot by Elsie Brown. The Shady Plot has been included in a short story collection called Humorous Ghost Stories, edited by an American writer, Dorothy Scarborough. However, there is hardly any information available about the author of the story, Elsie Brown. The Shady Plot is an entertaining account of a man called John Hallock, who is an occasional ghost story writer. While thinking over a fitting plot for his next story about the supernatural, he meets a ghost who works with the Writers' Inspiration Bureau, an organization of ghosts providing story ideas to writers. The meeting is followed by a series of hilarious situations which create chaos and confusion in John's life. Let's now take you to the author's study and listen to his experiences as he writes a letter to his friend. Dear Edmund, my hands shiver as I write this letter to you. What if an unknown ghost is peering into the pages of my notebook and changing my words? I am flabbergasted after my recent encounter with a ghost, and am seriously thinking if it is safer to be a cook in a local restaurant than a haunted writer. Some days ago, I met Jenkins, who wanted me to write another supernatural story for his magazine. It seems ghost material sells like hotcakes these days, and Jenkins thinks that I'm some ghost story churning machine. His magazine prints most of my stuff, so I have no choice but to work with him. You know that I became a ghost story writer by default. My first story was about ghosts, and since then, the tag just got stuck to me. After my meeting with Jenkins, I came back home and pondered deeply over some serious supernatural stuff, but no idea came to me. Rather, my mind wandered over inane things like my wife Lavinia's love for shopping and a fascination with every new fad. In frustration, I was talking to myself and cursing my part-time writing profession when I heard the voice of a woman in my room. Startled, I saw a small apparition near the furniture that was growing quickly. First, I saw an arm come out. Then a white shirtwaist appeared, followed by legs and a plaid skirt. Then finally a woman materialized and stood in front of me. She had an angular face, big fishy eyes, and wore bone-rimmed spectacles. Most shockingly, I was able to see right through her head. She glared at me and told me that I had called for her. To tell you the truth, my throat went dry in fear. Why on earth would I summon a ghost, pray? For a moment, I thought maybe it was the ghost of a stenographer who had come to apply for a job, as I had advertised for a steno in the paper some time ago. However, this woman told me that I had been calling her all afternoon while I was thinking for a plot for my story. Can you believe it? I was totally spooked. Anyway, she told me that the entire ghost clan was on a strike, so I would not be getting any story ideas from them. In fact, she said that she had helped me with all my ghost stories so far. Can you believe that? I was so shocked. After all my hard labor all these years, I was being told by a silly ghost that they were her brainchild. She told me about her life. Apparently, when alive, she was a writer herself and had later become a magazine reader. After dying, she and some other ghost friends of hers got together and formed an organization called the Writers' Inspiration Bureau. Here, they tried to search for writers like me, with impressionable minds who wanted story ideas. Then, one such a writer was found. The case was reported to the main office of the Bureau, which assigned the task of idea inspiration to a specific ghost. That's not all. At the end of the project, they were also required to turn in their reports. Now, doesn't that sound amazingly professional? She told me that of late they had been working long hours, as the Ouija board fanatics summoned them all the time to answer silly questions. Earlier, they would engage in recreational activities, like haunting around, but now all the time was consumed by hopeless Ouija board sessions. I was wondering why she was giving me all this information. She asked me to use my influence and persuade my friends and acquaintances not to use Ouija boards. If I was successful in doing so, she promised to help me with a plot for my new ghost story. Just then, I heard Lavenia's voice near my door, so I pleaded with the ghost to vanish, as I didn't want my wife to see her. She agreed and disappeared. Lavenia was startled to hear me muttering to myself. She had come to show me her steel from a bargain sale. To my horror, she had bought an Ouija board to help me with writing. She thought that now I could set up interviews with historical characters like Napoleon Bonaparte and Helen of Troy with the help of the Ouija board. Therefore I could avoid wasting time researching in dusty libraries. I tried to make Lavinia see the uselessness of this board, but she was adamant on using it to explore the life in the other world. The next day, I was too caught up with my accounting work in the office and forgot all about the board. On coming back home in the evening, I saw that my house was strangely illuminated. My housekeeper Gladolia met me in the hall and reminded me that there was a Ouija board party taking place at home. My heart sank on receiving this news. When I came to the parlor, I found many excited women from Lavinia's book club sitting and chatting. They were seated in couples, and between each couple was a Ouija board. Lavinia also looked very happy, and she came to me with a stupid request. Some woman called Laura Hinkle was without a partner, so my wife forced me to make a couple with her on the Ouija board. You know, Edmund, I could visualize my horrible fate right there. Miss Laura Hinkle was excited like a schoolgirl and began asking questions. There seemed to be some ghost flying over the Ouija board as the pointer turned to different letters and spelled T-R-A-I-T-O-R. Traitor! Suddenly, all the women in the room were interested in my existence and crowded around me. When Miss Hinkle asked the ghost more about the traitor, it answered, "Ask him." I went pale in the face. The ghost further said that her name was Helen, which left Lavinia and her friends wondering about the identity of this ghost. Suddenly, everyone in the room started commenting about me vociferously. Lavinia also gave me a disgusted look, as if I had cheated on her. To save the last shreds of my dignity, I left the room and ran upstairs. Next morning awaited me with another horror, as I received Lavinia's letter in the study. She was leaving for her grandmother's house and said that her lawyer would get in touch with me. I was totally crushed, not knowing what to do. I heard a familiar voice of a woman and saw a pair of shoes moving on the floor. In a while, different parts of a body appeared, and the same ghost who had come to meet me the previous day was standing before me. I told her that she had turned my life topsy-turvy, and thanks to her, I had lost my happiness and was on the verge of a probable divorce. The ghost told me in a firm voice that she had been sent back to inquire if I had gotten rid of the Ouija board. Soon, Lavinia came into the room with her suitcase to say goodbye. By Jove! I wanted her to leave at once, rather than see a ghost wandering in my room. Just then, Gladolia knocked at the door and announced that she too was leaving and that she hated the ghostly environment in the house. To my relief and joy, Lavinia asked her to burn that Ouija board for kindling wood. Gladolia then left, satisfied with this decision. Lavinia turned to me again. I knew she would go hysterical on seeing a ghost, so I tried to divert her attention from the corner of the room where the ghost was standing. Suspicious as she is, Lavinia knew that I was trying to conceal something from her. Eventually, she found out that there was a ghost in the room. Lavinia talked to the ghost and was satisfied to find out that she was not the historic Helen of Troy, but Helen of Troy, New York. Women can be so strange. The ghost, meanwhile, had had enough action for the day, and so she disappeared immediately. Lavinia was convinced that I was not cheating on her, and finally, after a roller coaster ride, my life was back to normal. Despite all trials and tribulations, the entire episode gave me a fantastic idea for a ghost story. I will send the magazine issue to you when the story gets published. Your loving friend, John Hallock. Let's now learn more about the prevalent themes in the story. On first impression, the title of the story seems very ambiguous. This title could be interpreted as a shady plot of land, a hidden plot of land, a hidden plan, or a creepy plot for a story. On reading, we find that the story is about the quest of an author to find a fitting plot for his ghost story. A shady plot is an unusual ghost story in which the author, Elsie Brown, has beautifully combined suspense with humor. She has used several words and expressions to build up an atmosphere of suspense. However, unlike other ghost stories, it does not become eerie and serious and retains a fine touch of comedy. For example, the comic materialization of the ghost, the reactions of the author, and the funny situations that he gets caught in generate humor. The author has also portrayed the ghost Helen in a humorous manner. She is not a conventional ferocious ghost. In fact, she is a professional employed with the Writer's Inspiration Bureau and has to submit a report after she completes an inspiration assignment. She also sports bone-rimmed glasses and wears well-polished laced shoes, which adds to the humor. The author also uses the African dialect of the housemaid Gladolia, who is morbidly scared of magic, to generate humor in the story. In this way, the effective combination of humor and suspense makes the shady plot a very enjoyable short ghost story.